Hi, this is David Eastman with Eastman Estate Planning, and today what we're going to do is we're going to go through our estate planning binder. All of you that are clients of ours, you have a binder that looks similar to this. Inside the binder, I think it's important that you understand the contents of the binder, what's in it, and what the documents do that are inside the binder. So today we're just going to do kind of a quick summary of what's behind each of the tabs inside of your estate planning portfolio. Hopefully you keep your estate planning portfolio in a fireproof safe. That is the best place to keep it. Sometimes we see that clients are keeping it in a safety deposit box. That is not the ideal place to keep it. Ideally, it's in a fireproof safe inside your home, and then you've notified your successor trustee on where to find the estate planning binder, and they know where to locate it upon your passing or incapacity. Inside your estate planning portfolio that you have are all of your signed original documents. We don't keep any original documents. We never have, we never will. So you have in your possession all of your signed original documents. We do keep a digital copy of everything that's inside your binder, but we don't have any of your originals. All of your originals are inside your portfolio. So let's get started. Let's kind of go through the binder here and show you what we have inside your portfolio. When you open your portfolio, the first thing you should see is our business card. All of our contact information should be on there, phone number, email, address, all of that should be on our card. If you don't have our business card, please contact us, let us know that you need a new business card, and we'll send that to you. That's going to be important because upon death or incapacity, one of the first phone calls that should be made is to our law firm, so we can walk your successor trustee through the steps that they need to take to administer the trust upon your incapacity or passing. And they'll need our contact information there in front of the binder to be able to contact us. So make sure our card and contact information is there. Another thing to maybe do is also send our business card to your successor trustees so they have that information on hand. Inside the book, you're going to see a title page that starts with your estate planning portfolio. You'll see your name on it, and then it will say estate planning portfolio. Inside the book, you'll see a bunch of different tabs. Behind each one of these tabs is one of two different things. It is either a homework sheet that we wanted you to get filled out and get done to help your successor trustee do their job, or it's a legal document that you should never write on or mark on. Hopefully, none of you have written on the legal documents. If you have, give us a call. We can walk you through how we need to make changes to that. You may be asking, well, why can't I write on the legal documents? If I want to make a change to a beneficiary or a percentage change to a beneficiary, why can't I just scribble that out and handwrite on a new percentage? But when you do that, it ruins the integrity of the document. It opens it up for interpretation. We don't know if you did that. We don't know if you had capacity when you did that. We don't know if you knew what you were doing when you did that. We don't know if somebody else did that or forced you to do that. So those are the questions that get asked if you just simply handwrite on your document yourself. So never handwrite on the legal documents. Only write on the pages that are homework pages that we've put a little sticky tab at the top of that page for you on. To get started here, the first tab you're going to see in your book is your table of contents tab. Behind the table of contents tab, you're going to see a brief description as to what's found behind every single tab inside the binder here. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just going to tell you, hey, behind the trust information tab, you're going to find a summary of information about your trust. Behind the living trust tab, surprise, surprise, you're going to find your living trust document. So it just summarizes what's found behind every tab inside the binder there. Nothing too complex to worry about behind the table of contents tab. The next tab you're going to see in your portfolio is your trust information tab. Behind the trust information tab, it's going to start with these 6 reminders that refresh your memory on how your trust is set up to work. So if you forget these things, just simply flip behind your trust information tab and review these 6 reminders on how your trust works. It's going to talk about how the trust is taxed. It's going to talk about your ability to remove assets from the trust and put new assets into the trust. It's also going to gently remind you to never write on the legal documents. So that's all right there to start with. The next thing you may see, and this may or may not be in your estate planning portfolio, we changed this. We started adding these pages here about 5 years ago. So if you have a portfolio that's older than 5 years, then it may not have this information in it. Certainly in the last 5 years, you would see this summary page that summarizes your trust, the name of your trust, the date of your trust, is all there on that summary page of your trust. Next, you're going to see a confirmation of names and fiduciaries. Once again, last 5 years, we just started doing this. So if your portfolio is older than 5 years, you won't have this in there. But those of you that have updated your estate plan in the last 5 years, you'll see this in there where it just summarizes the people that you've picked to be in charge of your estate plan, who you've picked to be your healthcare power of attorney, who you've picked to be your financial power of attorney, who you've picked to be your personal representative on your will and your trustee of your trust. All of that information would be summarized on that page there. The next thing you'll see is a little flow chart that kind of just shows you visually how your trust is set up to work. And you should have that flow chart inside your binder, whether it was done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. This flow chart has always been in our estate planning portfolios. And it just shows you visually how it's set up to work. In a married couple situation, and just FYI, I'm not disclosing any attorney-client privilege here as far as clients go. I didn't actually prepare an estate plan for John F. Kennedy or Jacqueline B. Kennedy. So if you're looking at this saying, oh my goodness, he's showing us his client's information. No, these aren't our clients. It's just a fictional portfolio we put together for demonstration purposes. But that flow chart is going to show you that the trust is broken down into 3 different time periods. Period 1 is while you're alive. Period 2 is when one spouse dies. And then period 3 would be when both spouses pass away and how the assets are distributed out to your beneficiaries. If you're a single person, you just remove period 2. You go from period 1 to period 3. And you will have that flow chart inside your binder as well for single people. The next tab is your living trust tab. Behind the living trust tab, you're going to see your trust. Your trust is about that thick, and that is the trust document. That's the document that keeps us out of living probate and death probate, as long as you've done your job, which is to fund the trust with the assets. It's very important that you've put all of your assets into the trust as you've acquired those new assets. And so as long as you've done that, the trust will do its job, which is to keep us out of probate upon your passing. So that's your trust. The next tab is your trust assets tab. Behind the trust assets tab, you're going to see a Schedule A in here. You should have a Schedule A behind the trust assets tab. In our older binders, the tab was called trust property. Our newer binders, the tab is called trust assets. It has all the same contents behind the tab, whether it's titled trust assets or trust property. You should all have a Schedule A found behind that tab. That Schedule A is what we typed up for you when you retained us to do your estate plan. And it has a list of all of the assets that existed when you hired us to do your estate plan. So all of your bank accounts, your real estate, your life insurance, your vehicles are all listed on that Schedule A. Behind that typewritten list of your assets, you'll see a blank Schedule A. That is a homework sheet that you can and should write on. That's for you to keep an updated log of your assets as they change. So if you close down in this hypothetical, let's say you had a Chase account and you close that Chase account down 5 years after you created your estate plan, so you no longer have it anymore. Well, then you'd have a blank Schedule A where you would indicate, I closed down Chase account number 12345. I moved that money to Wells Fargo account 6710. The main purpose to keep your trust assets Schedule A up to date is because the first question that an attorney is going to ask your successor trustee when you become incapacitated or die is going to be, what are the assets and how are they titled? Well, your successor trustee is not going to have any idea what your assets are. They're not going to know where you bank or where your investment accounts are unless you've kept a current log of that information, which should be found behind the trust assets or trust property tab. Then it makes life easier for your trustee to know, oh, I got to get in touch with Wells Fargo and Bank of America and Chase, as opposed to them guessing who you have accounts with. So that's the purpose of your trust assets tab. The next tab is your property agreement. If you're single, there is no such thing as a property agreement. If you're married, you would have a property agreement inside your portfolio. The purpose of your property agreement, if you're married, is to make it very clear whether you own assets as community property, you and your spouse own everything together, or if you have separate assets. And that's the purpose of your community property agreement. It's just spelling out all of our assets are community property, or we own separate property. And that's what the property agreement will spell out. The next tab inside your binder is your pour-over will. Your pour-over will ideally is never used. If we're using your pour-over will, it means you've screwed up as a client. You left an asset outside the trust that should have been put in the trust before you passed away. And now, because the asset was not put in the trust before you passed, we have to open probate now that you've passed away. And we use your pour-over will to open probate. It's called a pour-over will, pour P-O-U-R, like I'm pouring a cup of juice, not pour like I'm destitute, because it pours the asset into the trust after probate is closed. A lot of people confuse this and they think, oh, well, if I forget to put something in the trust, I have a pour-over will that's automatically going to put it in the trust upon my death. Well, it doesn't automatically put it in the trust. It's not like a genie in a bottle. It just poof, it makes it go in the trust. We have to go through a process to make that happen. And that process is probate. So if we're using this, it means we're in probate, which we don't want to be. That's the main purpose for creating your trust. It's only there in case you screw up and you left an asset outside the trust, then we get it into the trust, but we have to go through probate to get it in the trust. So that's your pour-over will. The other job of the pour-over will, by the way, is if you have minor children, the pour-over will is where we nominate a guardian to raise your kids and take care of your kids after you pass away. So that's kind of the two main purposes of your pour-over will. The next tab is your funding instructions tab. Behind your funding instructions tab, you're going to find instructions on how you go about funding your trust. So if you ever forget, you're like, oh, I know Dave or Darren told me I got to put everything in my trust, but how do I put a bank account in my trust? How do I put a checking account? How do I put my investment account into my trust? Well, just flip behind your funding instructions tab and it will instruct you on how you go about putting different types of assets into your trust. And there's instructions in there for every different type of asset you would ever own. It's a very, very useful tool inside your binder. The next tab is your certificate of trust. Behind the certificate of trust tab, you're going to find a certification of trust. The certification of trust is a summary of your trust. So if a third party, a bank, a financial institution, your investment advisor, or somebody asks you for a copy of your trust, instead of giving them the full copy of the trust document, which once again is this whole thing back here. This is the whole trust, right? So instead of giving them all of that right there, we can give them a summary of the trust, which is the certification, which is this right here. So it's only 3 pages long. It's much easier to give that than to give the whole trust document to your bank or financial institution if they request it. Just give them the summary of the trust, the certificate. The next tab is your life insurance tab. If you own any life insurance or annuities, this is a very useful resource for your trustee to have if you filled it out. This is homework. You should fill this information out. Who's the life insurance policy with? Who's the annuity with? How much is it worth? What's the death benefit? Who did you list as the beneficiaries on it? All that information should be readily available to your trustee if you've filled all this information out. So make sure you've done that. Location list tab is the next tab. Behind the location list tab is more homework that you should fill out so that your trustee knows where to locate all the important documents that they're going to need to administer your estate. We made it easy for you by giving you this little map, this little chart that you can fill out, indicating A, where do you keep your estate planning portfolio? Where do you keep this big binder? Well, remember, ideally you're keeping it in your fireproof safe. So you'd say, in the fireproof safe in the bedroom, combination 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then make a copy of this after you've filled it out and give the copy to your successor trustee. As we always say, it doesn't make any sense to fill this out and then keep the original in the book and then don't let your trustee know where to find it. It's like keeping the map with the treasure. We never do that. So after you fill this out, give the filled out copy to your successor trustee. Now they know where you keep your tax returns and where to find the deed to the house and where to find your bank statements. You've told them all that by filling out this little chart here. Next, you have key advisors to be contacted. So they're going to have to get in touch with your trustees, going to have to get in touch with your accountant, your financial advisor, your estate planning attorney, your doctors, the funeral home. All those people will have to be contacted when you pass. So make it easy for your trustee and fill out all of those professionals' contact information. And remember, this changes all the time. Right now, your CPA may be Doug Smith. And next year, you're going to move it from Doug Smith to Karen Jones. So then you'd have to update this. We recommend every year you're sitting down, going through all the homework pages and saying, hey, what's changed? Have I moved my binder from this location to that location? We'll change the location list homework. If an advisor has changed, change the advisor's information here. So very important you keep that up to date. Not just do it initially, very important to do it initially, but then to keep it updated as things change. Next, you're going to see a services and other providers list. This is actually a newer form that we've added to our binder recently, I would say in the last 3 years or so. So if your estate planning portfolio is older than the last 3 years, you may not have this homework sheet. If you don't have it and you want it, contact us and we will send the form to you. You can add it to your binder. This is also very important though, because it's letting your trustee know who your credit cards are with, because those have to be canceled or terminated when you pass away. Who is your internet provider? Cox Cable, CenturyLink, do you have satellite or cable TV? All that kind of stuff needs to be figured out when you pass. So make it easy by filling out all this information for your trustee to have at their fingertips. Next, we have friends and relatives to be contacted. So your best friend, Bob, who you play pickleball with every Thursday night, would your son, who's your trustee of your trust, know that you're friends with Bob? Would they know how to get in touch with Bob? Probably important that Bob's contacted, otherwise he's sitting there at the pickleball court every Thursday still waiting for you to show up and you're not alive anymore. So maybe he should be contacted, letting him know that you passed away, inviting him to the funeral service, that kind of stuff. Over here is our digital asset registry. All of you are very familiar with this. You know that usernames and passwords change all the time, so you got to keep this up to date. So this is your email address, your Instagram account, your Facebook account, your online banking accounts, your iCloud account where you store your photos and all that kind of stuff. That's very important for your trustee to have so they can access that information and shut those things down after you pass away. So make it easy, fill that information in, and then keep it up to date as things change. The next tab in your binder is your property power of attorney. So it's called a financial power of attorney, property power of attorney. The purpose of your financial power of attorney is to allow someone to make all of your financial decisions for you if you cannot make your own financial decisions. When does the power of attorney terminate? Upon your death. So upon your passing, the power of attorney goes away. It's no longer used. But while you're alive, should you lack capacity, we have a power of attorney that authorizes someone to step into your shoes and manage all of your financial affairs for you. That's the purpose of your power of attorney. It is very thick. Sometimes we get phone calls from clients saying, is that whole thing my power of attorney is, or just the first 2 pages? That whole thing is your financial power of attorney. That is what the bank, the financial institution, the title company would want to see from your agent if they're trying to act on your behalf. So it's the whole entire thing. Why do we have to have it so big? Why is there so much to it? Because we have to give your agent all the powers you had to do what you were doing. Anything that you were allowed to do in regards to an asset or a thing, we have to give your agent the same power and authority to do. Power to buy, power to sell, power to trade, power to invest, power to open accounts, close accounts down, mortgage property, make gifts, deal with litigation, cancel credit cards, deal with your retirement accounts. All that has to be outlined inside your power of attorney to give them the authority to do what needs to be done. So that is your financial power of attorney. The next documents you're going to see inside your binder are your healthcare documents. Behind the healthcare documents tab, there's a few legal documents in here that are going to be useful as it pertains to your healthcare. The first one is your living will. Your living will is a legal document that simply says whether you do or don't want to be kept on life support if you're found to be in a persistent vegetative state or a terminal condition. A lot of people get this confused with a DNR. This is not a do not resuscitate form. It has nothing to do with a DNR. This is a living will. It's separate from a DNR. So the living will is basically saying, now that the doctors have treated my condition and have diagnosed my situation, have said, you're going to be in a persistent vegetative state the rest of your life. You've already told the doctors, if that's the case, I do not want to be kept on life support. Just keep me comfortable. Or I do want to be kept on life support. And those elections are made on your living will. This is the whole situation that we went through with Terry Schiavo. If you remember the Terry Schiavo case, the lady in Florida, where her husband and her parents were arguing about whether to keep her on life support or remove life support, that whole case arose because Terry did not have a living will. So all of you have a living will that takes care of that issue. Next is a healthcare power of attorney. This is going to nominate someone to make all of your medical decisions for you. So if you're unconscious, if you have Alzheimer's or dementia or Parkinson's or something like that, you have a healthcare agent that steps into your shoes and is able to advocate all of your medical decisions for your doctors and nurse practitioners and dentists and psychologists and pharmacy and dentists and all that stuff. So this gives your agent the ability to make all those decisions for you if you can no longer make those medical decisions on your own. This has been updated as of COVID. Prior to 2020, none of us could have imagined what COVID would do. And because of COVID, we have substantially changed our healthcare documents. because of COVID, people were being quarantined in hospitals. You couldn't go in and see them. Loved ones couldn't go in and advocate for people. And a lot of that made us rethink the language that needs to be in our healthcare powers of attorney. There was also a case that came down recently with Casey Kasem, the top 40 countdown guy, dealing with his new wife not letting his children from a previous marriage having access to him. Because of those cases, we have also updated our healthcare documents. If you have not had your healthcare documents updated in the last 5 years, important you come in, contact us so we can review that, go through those changes with you, and potentially update your healthcare documents. The next healthcare document you're going to see behind your healthcare documents tab is a mental healthcare power of attorney. So we have a mental healthcare power of attorney, an agent that will be able to commit you to a partial psychiatric hospitalization program. This authorizes your agent to commit you if you suffer from some type of a mental disorder. A good example would be, let's say you suffer from depression and you lock yourself in your bathroom or something, threatening to commit suicide because you haven't been taking your meds like you should. Then your mental health care agent has the ability to commit you to get you back on your meds so that you're safe and everyone around you is safe. So that's your mental health care. The last healthcare document you're going to find inside your binder is a HIPAA form. It's called an authorization to disclose protected health information. All of you are familiar with the HIPAA form. You all sign a HIPAA form every time you go into the doctor's office. It's part of the clipboard of 50 pages of stuff you have to fill out. We have you pre-fill out a HIPAA form because you could be admitted to the hospital in an unconscious state. And if you're admitted to the hospital and you're unconscious, you can't sign a HIPAA form. You can't sign anything. And so now, because you haven't pre-authorized these people to have access to your medical information, the hospital cannot release your medical information to your loved ones. It's a violation of your HIPAA privacy rights. So we have you pre-fill out a HIPAA form that says, hey, if I'm unconscious when I'm admitted to the hospital, these are the people, doctors, nurses, whoever, who you can release my medical information to. Your children, your spouse, your nephew, your niece, whoever you want. Those people would be listed on your HIPAA form. That makes up your healthcare documents. We also have in our newer binders an anatomical gift form. If you want to be an organ donor or a tissue donor, we do provide an anatomical gift form where you can fill that out, making an organ donation or a tissue donation. So that is in there as well. Almost done here. 2 more tabs. Behind the other documents tab is a place where you can keep birth certificates and marriage licenses and death certificates and things like that. Ideally, all that we want your trustee to have to find is this binder. If they find this, they should have everything that they need to administer your estate. We don't want them doing a scavenger hunt around your house, trying to locate this here, that there, trying to gather it all up. It should all be here, nice and easy for them to find, and that all those legal documents can be kept behind your other documents tab. We also provide for your successor trustee action steps that need to be taken upon death or incapacity. We kind of go through here and we spell it out. Hey, within the first 24 to 48 hours, do this, 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 and this. The main thing that you should be telling your successor trustee is when I pass away or if I become incapacitated, you need to contact our estate planning attorney. They will go through all of this with you. It's a very overwhelming thing. Just imagine, your child is trying to deal with your passing. It's emotional. They just lost their mother, their father. And on top of that, they're trying to administer all of this stuff, paperwork, trying to figure it out. It's overwhelming. That's why we're here. So have them reach out to us, contact us. We never charge for that consultation. So please feel free to have them reach out. We don't charge for that consultation to sit down with them. The last, we're here, finally, at the end. We're at the Legacy Planning tab. The Legacy Planning tab, behind here, there's a few more pieces of homework that we always advocate that clients should fill out. To be honest with you, very few of them ever do. Maybe you'll be the rare person that does it. You'll get a gold star from us. But these things are helpful if you do them. One of those things is to write a letter to your loved ones. It's a final goodbye letter. It's hopes, it's wishes, it's dreams, it's aspirations for them. Certainly do not be critical of your children or loved ones here. They don't want to know about how in the 8th grade they spilled the orange juice on your white carpet and you're still mad about that. Don't let them know about that as your final goodbye letter. But the things you do love and appreciate about them, put that in there. Honestly, the things that your kids are going to remember most about you is that letter. It's not all this stuff here. They're not going to care less about what your trust says or the legalese that go into creating your trust. What they are going to care about are your thoughts and your feelings about them. So make a nice letter to them. That would be nice to give to them upon your passing. Over here we have your personal property list. This is your jewelry, your artwork, your furniture, your TV, your couch, all that kind of stuff inside your home. Look around your home. There's lots of stuff inside your home that needs to be distributed to certain people. How do we distribute those things to those people? Well, you make a list of it. You say, I want the golf clubs to go to Johnny. I want the diamond ring to go to Mary. I want the Van Gogh painting to go to Peter. That's all you do. Just fill it out. This can be changed at any time. You don't have to come in and see your estate planning attorney to make a change here. There are extra copies that should be inside your binder. So if you want to make a change, just take out the old one, shred the old one, fill out the new one. What I would highly recommend you don't do is don't just scribble out Johnny's name and put in Mary's name. What that does, once again, is it opens it up for interpretation. We don't know if Mary got a hold of your binder and she scribbled out her brother's name and wrote her name in there. So it's best just to take the old one that you filled out. If you're gonna make a change, take it out, shred it, start a new list, if that makes sense. Also inside your book, you're gonna see a remembrance and services memorandum. So this helps you kind of go through and plan for your funeral. What flowers do you want? What hymns do you want? Who do you want speaking? Do you want an obituary? What would you want in your obituary? Who are the pallbearers? Do you want pallbearers? What should be on the headstone? All that kind of stuff. We go through and we give a bunch of questions for you to answer that would help your trustee, your loved ones, plan for all those things. Once again, you just kind of have to put yourself in their shoes. You've just passed away. It's a very emotional time. If we have multiple children, more likely than not, if you're like most families, they're all going to have an opinion on what to do. And so they're trying to figure it out. You know, should we have this casket? Should we have this casket? Who's going to be the pallbearers? Well, I got 10 grandkids. Well, there's only 4 pallbearers. So which of the grandkids are we going to use? I like this song. I like this song. Take it all out of their hands. Fill it out. Make it easy for them so they all know exactly what your wishes are. And that makes it so we have less conflict in the family if you do that. The last homework sheet inside your book is your legacy planning tab. So there should be a homework sheet in here. Maybe I've skipped it already. Back up here. Yeah, my legacy. So here is just about your family history. What was it like growing up? This more is think of it like your great-great-great-great-grandchild who's trying to remember who you were and what you were like and all that stuff. This kind of helps them have that information. You know, what were you like as a kid, and what were your favorite hobbies, and what were you good at, and what did you excel at, and you know, did you go to graduate school, and all that kind of stuff. So we've given a bunch of questions that prompt you to answer the questions that hopefully will be something for your great-great-grandchildren to always have to remember you by. So that's in your binder. Hopefully that helps. Hopefully that was beneficial to you. I know it was long. YouTube videos should be a lot shorter than this. I get that. Hopefully we captured your attention for at least the time that we were able to go through it. If not, just take it in pieces and listen to what you want when you want. Thank you. We'll see you next time.